138 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro. Mr.
Andre the
Pro
Giant.
gonna get his licks in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number 1, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
his opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.
Welcome in to another edition of the Retro Wrestling Rewind. As always, I'm David Fine alongside Alex G. Capital Combat 1990 wasn't just probably one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever watched recently, but it was also the Return of Robo Cop. And if
you have no taste.
I have no taste, and if you're tired of us saying by the end of this program, the Return of RoboCop, just watch the show because it's the Return of RoboCop. I mean, you picked it, so we watched it. Your thoughts before we dismantle and kind of make fun of Capital Combat 90, the Return of RoboCop, which of course happened May 19th of 1990.
May 19th.
Yeah, it says May 19th, 1990.
May 19th.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
It was in Washington, D.C., the D.C. Armory. And 7,500 people either got free tickets or won free tickets or paid actual money to go see the Return of RoboCop. So, your thoughts before we go into the program?
I'm not sure where RoboCop was returning from. Because he wasn't there before.
No.
Obviously, it's a reference to RoboCop 2, which is a fantastic movie. In 1990, I was a huge RoboCop fan. The RoboCop movie was fantastic. I love that film. The second one, not as good as the first, but it still hold up. Now, we're not going to talk about RoboCop 3 because that's ridiculous. But Capital Combat is the best pay-per-view of any wrestling promotion in 1990.
Really?
Like you look at the matches on paper. Now a lot of people will discount this show because it has RoboCop in it, and I think that's a mistake because if you pull all the RoboCop shit out of it, it's a fantastic fucking show. Like it's off the fucking chain good.
I mean, a lot of the times we agree on shows, but there's going to be a lot of disagreement on this particular broadcast.
Because you have no taste.
Well, I mean, obviously, you're my co-host, but I mean, that's, just saying. I don't have good taste, but I keep you around.
If you don't have good taste, then you must be less filling then.
I am. I keep you around, because as many faults as you have, one of your biggest faults is that you live in Long Island, and, but that's beside the point, but I'll keep you around because, I'm just saying, you pick good shows, you pick bad shows. The next show that we're going to be covering, which we'll be talking about at the end of the program for next week, is an even bigger stinker than Capital Combat 90. As I say, the Return of RoboCop.
Now, weren't you doing Survivor Series 95?
SummerSlam 1995.
So it's not Survivor Series?
It is not Survivor Series.
He must saying Survivor Series. That's why I'm asking.
No, it is. Yeah, I as always, I make mistakes. It's SummerSlam 1990.
I'm pretty sure that Survivor Series had fucking Chuck Norris on it, though.
Yeah, it was not. I was actually rewatching the show tonight. I, didn't have anything better to do with my life on a day that that there's probably could just go out and hang out with my kid, but I decided, put him to sleep with the old sleeper hold. He went to sleep. He's in bed, and I was like, hey, I want to watch SummerSlam, which, I'm sorry, that's our next show, but we'll be talking about that in the program. So convince me, if you can, why this is the best show of 1990.
Well, again, if you go back and watch all the shows from the WWF and WCW in 1990, it's clearly head and shoulders above the rest. Probably the next up would probably be SummerSlam 90 would be the next one. Maybe the EML 57th anniversary show. That one's okay. The FMW first anniversary show was okay. Halloween Havoc, not so good. So I think overall, this is the best show of 1990. The only one that really comes close to it, in my personal opinion, is probably Wrestle War 90. But that being said, it is WCW 1990, and it's chock full of issues because it's WCW 1990. First and foremost is Sting's injury, which screwed up the entire year of 1990's booking. Now, Sting was scheduled to win the NWA World Title at Wrestle War 90 from Nature Boy Ric Flair. The clash prior setting up the show, he gets hurt. He blows out his knee. He has to get knee surgery. So what do? They turn Lex Luger babyface. And it goes to show you how thin that fucking roster was. Because obviously what you're going to do in the second half of 1990 is give us the match that we wanted to see. Would have been Sting versus Lex Luger for the NWA World Title on top, taking place throughout the summer. We did not get that due to the fact that Lex Luger turned babyface because they had no choice, unfortunately. Now, could have been guys that they could have brought in. Could they have done something with Steve Williams? Could they have brought back Terry Gordy? Possibly Stan Hansen is still pseudo available, especially for a 1 or 2 shot deal. And then again, it goes to show you how much they miss Ricky Steamboat, because Ricky Steamboat had left the summer before, and he was clearly designated as the either top babyface or second babyfaces. They ran out of babyfaces, essentially. So when Sting goes down, there's no one to put in the ring with Ric Flair. Hence, we get Luger. And it kind of screws up the entire year's booking, which leads us to the Black Scorpion, which is awful. It might be the worst thing in professional wrestling due to the fact that they had an angle and they did not have a finish and ended up being Ric Flair. For those of you who haven't watched that show, spoilers,
what?
I guess.
Wait, what? Ric Flair ended up being the Black
Scorpion.
That just blows my mind.
Let's talk about something. I'm gonna switch gears here because I'm gonna completely hijack this thing. 1990 professional wrestling. As we go through the year 1990, I guess the definitive moment of 1990s wrestling is the Ultimate Warrior winning the WWF Championship from Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6. I have a theory that Turner and WCW really wanted to beat the WWF to the punch by having their top painted up ex-Blade Runner wrestler win the title before Warrior did. Now, unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I always thought that was something they were angling towards, even if you go through Starrcade 89. They're really, really behind Sting, and I think, they really wanted him to take that belt before Warrior won that so they can always go back and say the WWF was copying them. It brings up an interesting notion here, and I'm probably going to offend a lot of JCP fans, Crockett fans in general, because they can be kind of snobby. They're a little snobby, especially those Crockett folks can be a little snobby because, they'll go off and say throughout the 80s, Jim Crockett Promotions had the best wrestling going on, had the best workers, had the best promos, and the WWF was chock full of steroid freaks, rock music, and cartoons. Now, what I have to say to that is, what if you switched the Ultimate Warrior and Sting? So instead of Sting going to the UWF and then going to WWF, maybe he goes to World Class and then goes to WWF. And then the Warrior, instead of going to World Class, he stays in the UWF and then goes to WCW. How would that affect 1990s professional wrestling? Now, when we look at on paper, a lot of Crockett people would say the Warrior wouldn't have stood a chance in WCW. Like, he wasn't a good enough worker. His promos were garbage. He was a garbage wrestler, and he wouldn't have gotten over on Crockett. And I say that's bullshit. Because you look at the Crockett roster, there's guys just like Warrior on that roster. We can take a look at Lex Luger. We can take a look at the Road Warriors. And we can take a look at Nikita Koloff as guys who were similar to Warrior. Not the same, but similar in terms of in-ring ability. They got the paint, and they got the muscles, and they got the rock music. So I think if you put Ultimate Warrior in that WCW era at that point, I think first and foremost, Warrior would become a better worker because he's working with Flair, he's working with Arn Anderson, he's working with Tully Blanchard every fucking night. I don't think we will get a lot of the Warrior shenanigans that we got in WWF because guys like Road Warrior Hawk and Nikita and these guys would fucking just rip his head off. Like, he's not going to do some of that backstage bullshit because they're going to keep him in line. So this notion that the Warrior wouldn't have gotten over in WCW, I think, is incorrect. And I think he probably would end up being NWO World Champion at some point. Now, on the flip side, there's Sting. Now, Sting in the WWF would have been interesting all on its own. Sting, when you compare him to the Ultimate Warrior, Sting was always more athletic. A different type of promo, but kind of similar. You know, they could have worked with him on promos. I think he would have been a much better promo in that WWF system where, you know, they're taping 96 fucking post-produced fucking interviews over and over again. I think he would have been a top babyface. I think if you put him in the ring with Ravishing Rick Rude, and we saw later on the Sting and Rude matches and how phenomenal those were. You put Sting in the ring with Randy Savage when Savage was the heel, well, we got something here. And I think the biggest mistake the WWF ever did up until that point was have Warrior beat Hogan. Because if you're a hardcore Hulkamaniac like myself, you weren't going to get behind Warrior after he beat Hogan. Like, it took a lot of things away. I think it split the audience with Warrior, where I think everyone was digging Warrior before he won the title, and then after he won the title, people weren't digging him so much. And then, of course, the WWF has to change, you know, kind of the concepts of the Warrior and his image, and they took everything that was cool about the Ultimate Warrior that you liked, and as soon as they won the belt, they kind of got rid of it. And we've seen that in other cases. Most notably, would be Kevin Nash. Everyone was high. All the smart mucks loved Kevin Nash. When he won the title, they changed his characters to such a degree after he won it that everyone hated his guts. Same thing to Shawn Michaels to a certain degree. Again, 1995, Shawn Michaels was dope. He had the fucking beard. He looked cool. And then by the time he's in position to win the world title, now he's boyhood dream Shawn Michaels. And that takes a lot of what was cool about Shawn Michaels, and they threw it away. You can say the same thing about Roman Reigns. You can say the same thing about John Cena. The only person who really kept kind of with his original character, although they add pieces to it, was Hulk Hogan, and that was over an extended period of time, and Steve Austin. Then those guys drew fantastic money, and they're always, revered. In Steve Austin's case, still revered. In Hulk Hogan's case, maybe not so much anymore. But I think Warrior would have done well in WCW, and I think Sting would have done phenomenal in the WWF. Although the one caveat with Sting is Sting didn't like that WWF schedule, and that's the real reason why he never came. Fuck all the other noise. Sting didn't work a full-time schedule past 1996. You know what I mean? He was doing that crow shit, and he wasn't on a full-time schedule anywhere past 1996. And hell, in the early 90s WCW, they're not even running house shows. So he kind of really liked the WCW schedule versus, working 300 dates a fucking year for the WWF. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think a lot of the Crockett fans and a lot of, NWA, WCW people were like, we had the best workers. We didn't have this bullshit. Like, motherfucker, you had Nikita Koloff in PN News. Relax. All right, chill.
Yeah. I mean, PN News, oh boy, he was a heck of a good wrestler. Kind of going on a side.
He was over. He
Yeah,
was over, though.
I mean, did you see him on that? I think we covered it a couple months ago, probably maybe even last year when he got up on the old scaffold match, and he was not
American Bash in '91.
He was. You don't put. I mean, skinny guys should not go up on a fucking. I mean, the Road Warriors should not have gone up on the fucking scaffold.
The Powers of Pain quit WCW because they didn't want to fall off the scaffold. They made poor Uncle Ivan fucking jump off that fucking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm PN News, but
I know you're flabbergasted. I get it.
I used to be a big PN News fan back in the day, but not really. But
yo, baby, yo.
No, but the first match on the card, we had Norman the Lunatic and the Road Warriors taking on Bam Bam Bigelow, Cactus Jack, and Kevin Sullivan with Oliver Humperdink. The funny part of this match was the beginning. Road Warriors come out on these really cool motorcycles being driven by someone else to two manly men, I guess they would say. But then Norman the Lunatic came out on a little tricycle, like a push scooter that my son has, similar. I mean, what were your thoughts on the Norman the Lunatic character?
I love fucking Norman.
Why?
Norman is awesome. Mika Singh if you want to be a jerk about it. Bash and Booger if you want to be a dick about it. But I love the gimmick of Norman. There's this one show, I think it was fucking Texas Shootout, where Jim Cornette called him a child molester, but we're not going to get into that. But Norman was an excellent character, and he's feuding with Kevin Sullivan at this point and his group, and the Warriors are about 3 years out of their prime at this point. Like, they really needed a gimmick change, and they never fucking got it. Unfortunately, I think Hulk should have been a single by this point. And they probably should have feuded with each other, but I don't think anyone wanted to see that. So the Road Warriors are not long for this world in terms of WCW. They would end up in WWF by the summer. Bam Bam Bigelow, his issues here is that he and Ric Flair didn't get along. And who's your booker here? Ric Flair. So that's why we see Bam Bam Bigelow on the opening match. And Cactus is being Cactus. It's like, guys like Sullivan and Cornette always push for Cactus to come in, and he'll do whatever crazy spots, and they really had a soft spot in their heart for Cactus. So that's why you see him kind of in these early WCW shows, where prior to this he's mostly doing independence and global. But this match was a fun little match. Nice to see Bam Bam here. It probably went a couple minutes too long, unfortunately, and the Warriors get the win here with Norman, and Norman's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it was also fantastic. I love Oliver Humperdink. I mean,
Isn't he like the ugliest motherfucker on the planet?
Yeah, I mean, he would not win a beauty contest. I mean, he wouldn't win handsomest man in the world. Hell, even Stevie Wonder would think he was ugly, and he's blind. But he was a great manager.
That's a work, by the way.
What? That he's actually not blind. I mean, that would be if that actually was true, which I mean, it's not. But that would be the longest and most epic work in the history of anything. But yeah, Oliver Humperdink. Were you a fan of his now, or his?
No, Hump was awesome in Florida. Yeah. Again, with the Sullivans and doing the devil worshiper gimmick and all that kind of stuff. And WWF, I don't know why he was there. I mean, it was weird. It was a weird fit, and. He's back here in WCW, and then he will go on to be the road boss for your favorite tag team of all time, the Fabulous Freebirds. I mean,
they are the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
They're not rock stars.
I mean, hey, Michael P.S. Hayes would argue that point, but I mean, this is
his fucking fanny pack. That motherfucker.
Yeah, and God, he is. Yeah, that's beside the point. But that was a good opening match. The next match we had, the future Hall of Famer, the man who would be known as The Undertaker, Mean Mark, with the world's greatest manager / referee, Theodore All Along, taking on Johnny Ace, a.k.a. John Laryngitis, as I call him. I mean, what were your thoughts on Mean Mark back then? I mean, who would have thought that just a couple of, Mean
Mark had top guy potential. 100% for sure.
Because I
don't know what they were doing with him in WCW though. He was part of the Skyscrapers, and then he's hanging out with Teddy Long, and at some point, Paul Heyman was managing him for a little bit. He had that one big time match up at Great American Bash '90 with Luger, and that's about it. He's off to WWF after he made that Suburban Commando with Hulk Hogan. He met Hogan on the set of Suburban Commando. Hogan convinced him to come to WWF, and the reason why we have an Undertaker in the WWF is because Hulk Hogan went to bat for him. So just keep that in mind, kiddies.
And speaking of the Undertaker, I was reading, how I just like to troll the internet.
You can read? I'm surprised.
I can read small words, like the and in, but
that Georgia education, public school, I'm assuming.
No.
Wonderful.
I did not go to public. Actually, I went to public school in middle school, but when we moved up to Atlanta, I did not. But
so you're fucking. You went to private school?
Yes.
Who's privates?
Whoa, hey, that's another podcast. That's for your YouTube version of that of the podcast. But I was reading. They were saying this is backstage booking. I mean, it's just like armchair booking, Monday morning quarterback. What would have happened if Brock Lesnar had not beaten The Undertaker? It just brings up a point with me, Mark. He was underutilized, as you said, in WCW, but he went to the WWF, WWE, and he's been the same gimmick since he debuted this same year. I mean, it's the longest, he's changed his look of his gimmick, and I
right. He's been the Undertaker for fucking 90 years. We get it.
Yeah.
We get the point. The thing is about the Undertaker when he first debuted, you never really got to see what the Undertaker could do, and I think we saw glimpses of it as Mean Mark, who was doing a lot of cool shit. It wasn't until I would say, when did he start working? Like when 96, when they started having matches with Brett.
Yeah. And
he actually started working like a regular wrestler instead of being a zombie the entire time. But yeah, Mean Mark, super athletic, can do 1,000 cool shit. Halfway decent promo, but he's the man, and he's respected for that reason. He's a protege of Bruiser Brody, by the way. I don't know if people know that. Mean Mark's been around for a while. I think he debuted in '84, so he's been around for a little bit. So
yeah,
fucking Johnny Ace, huh? He fucking married Nikki and Brie Bella's mom. So
yeah, I think
essentially he's that's one weird Christmas, isn't it? So not only do you have the Bellas and then Daniel Bryan, you have Road Warrior Animal. Yeah. You have the Road Warrior's son, it was James Laurinaitis, who was former football player for the Rams. That's a weird Christmas, man.
Yeah, man, and just think if John Cena had grown up hair and got married to the other Bella, then
John Cena don't want no kids. I don't think you don't want no kids. Smart man.
Yeah.
If you look like John Cena and had John Cena's money, are you going to be rushing to get married? Or are you going to be like Derek Jeter and fuck all these bitches? John Cena can get some bitches. Like, why would you give that up? I know Brie is fucking smoking. We get it. But John gets some bitches.
Yes, he does. But yeah, this match, it went longer. It went longer than the first match. It was
10 minutes. That's pretty long for what should have been essentially a squash match.
Yeah, but it was Johnny Ace. Back then, he was a young Johnny Ace back then.
You're a big fan of Dynamic Dudes?
I love that. I love the skateboard gimmick. I was, big into skateboards back in.
Were you?
I was not very good at it. And my son.
I was more of a BMX guy anyway.
Well, because you're cool like that. But now my son wants to get into skateboarding. He's been talking about that all the time. I'm like,
okay.
Hey, maybe you want to be like the Dynamic Dudes, but it was a match. It was a good match. Next match we had the Samoan SWAT team, Fatu and the Samoan Savage, taking on Mike Rotunda. When somebody say something about fired up Tommy Wildfire Rich in a even longer match, 17 minutes and 54 fucking seconds.
It was weird. Like the Samoan SWAT. This is not the Samoan SWAT team. This is the new Wild Samoans. They have this wrong. The Samoan SWAT teams are Fatu and Samu, who would go on to be the head shrinkers. Mm-hmm. This is Fatu and the Samoan Savage. Now, Samoan Savage is Tonga John from Body Slam, or one half of the Islanders. That's the Samoan Savage, which is weird. But yeah, this is not the SWAT team, and there's no Paulie Dangerously with them either. So this is the new Wild Samoans.
What were your thoughts on that? Mike Rotunda, Tommy Rich versus the Samoans.
Again, it goes to show you how depleted this roster was. Like, you couldn't find another tag team. You got to fucking put Mike Rotunda and Tommy Rich together. Like, that's what we're doing. Like, he's fucking Captain Mike Rotunda too. Now Captain Mike becomes cooler later when he's hanging out with Norman and Abdul the Butcher. And that's a 6-man team, which is awesome. Not so much hanging out with Tommy Rich here, but Tommy does look good. Tommy's probably in his best shape since like 1982, 1990. So he's looking good. Tommy's looking good. Looking like he's going to have another run in Memphis, not in WCW. But he's looking good. And, fucking the SWAT team kind of, it fucking goes forever too. It's like 17 matches. 17 minutes. It's like an AEW match.
Hey, well, we'll kind of talk about, AEW, later on in the program, but, to kind of take a break from talking about the the world's greatest professional wrestling pay-per-view, Capital Combat 1990, The Return of Robo Cop. After everyone watches or listens to this the program, and they want to hear the dulcet tones of Alex G, and hear a grown-ass man watch and comment and play video games, how can they do that?
Well, you want to go to Retro Wrestling Games Presents on YouTube. Just type it right in the search bar. It'll come right up. Again, you want to make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified when new videos come up. And make sure you watch the video and comment. Call me an asshole or something.
Yeah, I mean...
Which no one has taken me up on that offer, by the way.
I mean, I'll comment and call you an asshole, but...
Well...
But I mean, that's, you know, that's...
I'd rather be an asshole than a whole ass. How about that?
Hey, well, I mean, I could be a badass or, you know... I don't know.
No. There's nothing about you this is badass.
Is it, speaking of badass, is there anything new coming down the pipeline? I know you have the NWA project you are working on. You're doing this project, that project. I mean, are you... Speaking of the NWA project, I mean, as probably people know, they made it's kind of a semi-announcement. We knew about it a long time ago, but the Retromania game, you know, that we've... that actually you played the early stages in development.
Yeah, I've tested it a couple of times.
They signed a deal with the National Wrestling Alliance. They're going to have Nick Aldis. You're going to be able to go for the 10 pounds of gold. Going to have Colt Boom Boom Cabana, the current national champion here.
Spoilers, Jesus Christ.
Sorry, hey, our fans are smart enough. They watch everything. I mean, there's enough fucking wrestling on TV and on the internet now. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, them signing that deal with the National Wrestling Alliance. I mean, do you think?
I think it's a big deal. I think it helps legitimizes the NWA. And I think it's, you know, for Mike and the Retromania team, you know, it's a big get. You know, getting that license, having that game officially licensed by a wrestling company is a huge deal. It gives both companies credibility. And I know a lot of people who are going to buy this thing day one. So again, it's going to be available on the Switch. It's going to be available on PS4. It's going to be available on Xbox One, and it's going to be available on the PC. So again, if you like WrestleFest from 1991, if you like that style, arcade style, with the NWA license on it, with some modern wrestlers on that, and the Road Warriors and Austin Idol, you know, this is the game for you. I mean, it plays really smooth. I think once we see the finished product on it, I think everyone's going to be super impressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming on early 2020. Like you said, it's going to be on the Switch. It's going to be on, all the major devices, and, you know, and some other devices coming up pretty soon. But I'm pretty interested. I'm not a big gamer anymore, but I would definitely love to play this because, I mean, like I said, you played it early development at WrestleCon. You know,
I've tested it more after that as well.
Well, I mean, over, you know, the time that you played it at WrestleCon, which is the first time you had ever seen it.
Yeah.
How much has it improved? I mean, I would assume it's improved like, you know, 1,000-fold. I mean, it's, you know.
No, it's funny. It's funny. Like right off the bat, it felt really good. Controls feel, you know, you really do feel in command of your character. And you think the most important things about wrestling is when we talk about those all the time when we review wrestling games is the controls. Yeah. Like graphics be damned, what wrestlers you have be damned. If the controls are not spot on, if you can't hit a button and do what you want to do, if you want to execute a body slam, you should have the ability to do so without literally putting in nuclear launch codes to get this accomplished. Then you know you're on your way to having a good game. And I can tell you from personal experience, and I played this, you know, on Xbox One controller. I've also played it on arcade stick, and the controls are very fluid and they feel really good.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that it's definitely going to be it's going to be a hit with not just the young fans, but especially the old retro wrestling
for sure. Because
fans.
Again, everyone goes back and says how much they love No Mercy. Everyone goes back and says how much they love Raw versus SmackDown. And there's a large contingent of fans who really love that WrestleFest arcade cabinet. That game was at my local arcade, and I played the living fuck out of that fucking game. Like it's a really good game. You know, WWF, that's the first time they hit a home run in terms of a video game, because all the video games prior to that were all bullshit and they were really shitty. And this is the first one that was really good. So again, that has a soft spot, and a lot of people that are our age is going to instantly be able to recognize it and instantly be able to like, I can pick up and play this game.
Yeah.
And now they have a story mode, and they have the NWA involved, and you know they have the new arena, which is the NWA studio, which looks fantastic. I love it. You know, all across the board. I think it's gonna be aces across the board.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely gonna be a hit in a lot of houses. And
I'll tell you, it'd be a lot better than the fucking WWE 2K20 that came out. Holy shit! What a fucking pile of shit that was.
Yeah, it was.
They literally released an unfinished broken game. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
I mean, the guys over there at the that are creating the game. I mean, they're definitely not going to release anything until it's spot on. I mean, it's it's going to be great. But speaking of things that were even terrible, then the first three matches of the night, Paul Ellering taking on Teddy Long in a hair versus hair match. I guess
both the guys are bald. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, I get. Oh, and sorry, special guest ring announcer Missy Hyatt.
We all love Missy Hyatt. That's for sure.
We do. She's not really aged well, but I just saw some pictures of her from WrestleCon. Not WrestleCon, from Starcast this past weekend. Anyway, but I'm assuming that Teddy Long wanted a haircut. He wanted that stupid half bozo looking wig, bozo hair that he had taken off. I mean, and Paul Ellering, he was a phenomenal wrestler back in his day, but
I think a lot of people forget that. I think a lot of people remember Paul Ellering as a wrestler. They don't, as the manager. They don't remember Paul Ellering was as like legitimately like a top guy, main event star.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching him, back in the day when he had blonde hair and he was a good wrestler. I mean, and like you said, people, it's people forget that, like Teddy Long was a great referee. He was a great manager, but some people kind of can't differ. They can't, look back and say, oh, he was a great referee, but they only know him as a manager. And that's kind of, I think, how people think of Paul Ellering as just a manager, as the Road Warriors. But he was a great wrestler, but this match didn't really do him any good. But
who was Jay Tapper?
I guess he was a famous hairstylist, and
I never heard of this guy.
I don't know. I don't know. He was weird, but that's like you said.
But I like the concept here where like Teddy Long's wearing the boxing gloves and he's the boxing headgear and he's Sugar Ray Long, which is ridiculous. And then Teddy's beating the shit out of Paul, and everyone's wondering why. And then we find out that he literally has a fucking foreign object in his glove.
Yeah.
And at the end of the match, Ellering hits him. I think it's the 1, 2, 3, and they shave his head. But Teddy Long would get his I guess not comeuppance, but he would get retribution later on in the show.
Yeah, I mean he definitely would do that. But I mean this was a match. It was, thank God it was only a minute and 57 seconds. Next match we had on the card, it was for the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. The Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane, not my favorite incarnation of the Express, taking on the champions of Tom Zink.
What, do you like Dennis Condrey and Norville Austin?
No, I like
Dennis Condrey and Randy Rhodes.
No, I like Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, but that's they were taking on Flying Brian Pillman and Tom Zink for the
Z-Man Tom Zink.
Yeah, the Z-Man Tom Zink, very handsome man.
Recently departed Tom Zink.
Yes, and a man who Tony Schiavone who is madly in love with Tom Zink, but like you said, he's recently departed, so we won't say anything negative towards him. This match, this
match is fantastic. Again, this is for the United States Tag Team Championship, right? It goes 20 minutes, right? And this is probably the second to last great Midnight Express match. Again, they wouldn't last too much longer in WCW at this point. Again, they would have a little run with the Wild Out Southern Boys later on, but like, hey. At this point, you're thinking like, all right, the Midnights are back. They're heels again. Cornette's with them. They got the United States Tag Team Championship, the only team to ever hold both belts at the same time, which I think the Steiners will later on do that. But, again, a phenomenal match. Again, Brian Pillman, amazing. Tom Zink can carry himself. He's all right. But this match, again, with the shark cage stipulation, which made no sense, but we know why it's there. It's there for a fucking reason. But, yeah, you put Courtney up in the cage. But, again, the Midnights take the United States Tag Team Championship, and that's fucking dope.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette. I mean, I love Brian Pillman and Tom Zink. I mean, he's Tom Zink. I mean,
He's there. He's holding his own.
And speaking of people that are fucking holding their own, it's 2019, the fucking Rock and Roll Express. They're the current reigning and defending NWA World Tag Team Champions. Sorry to spoil everyone. They beat the former NWA Tag Team Champions in the current NWA Power show, which is going to be coming up, I think, in about a week or two. You'll see those results. But they took on the Fabulous Freebirds in a corporal punishment match. But first,
we got to talk about RoboCop, because this is when RoboCop makes his appearance.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of glance over it, but since you're a big fucking RoboCop, Mark, you have the honors of telling everybody at home, RoboCop, why the fuck is he there?
Now, my copy of this show is different from what I remember. Because I remember, I don't know, this might be on the pay-per-view version of this show, but earlier in the night, they cut to Gordon Soley in front of the locker room, and RoboCop's making his first appearance. And something happens, and the cameraman falls, and then RoboCop trips and falls and lands on his butt. Now, I'm assuming this was cut for videotape. I'm assuming this was cut on the WWE Network. No one's ever mentioned this before. Like, it didn't happen. I looked it up I Googled it, and I'm like, did this really happen? Was this a dream? Is this the Mandela effect? But I swear on everything I hold dear that there's a segment where fucking he falls. I swear it happened.
Yeah, they didn't have it on the network.
It's not anywhere. No one ever talks about this. It's not in the message boards. It's like I'm making this shit up, but I swear it fucking happened because I've seen it.
I mean,
on numerous occasions. I watched the show like a million times.
I would love for you to get that version of the. I
gotta find it. I have to go through my garage and pull the tapes and see what's up.
That would be funny to make the fuck fun of RoboCop falling. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, that could make this pay-per-view funny and actually watchable.
A couple things I want to mention here. Number one, you notice who's not wrestling on their show. There's no Arn Anderson. There's no Barry Windham. There's no Sid Vicious. Like, I don't know why they're not on the show. I don't know why they don't have matches. I'm assuming Arn is hurt. And maybe fucking Barry Windham is hurt. But we know for a fact that I don't think Sid Vicious is hurt. So that's weird.
Maybe there was a softball game that day.
It might. Well, he was there. It wasn't like he didn't know show.
Yeah.
So, they do the thing where Sting is out there and the Horseman locks Sting into the cage. So then RoboCop comes out, and it takes him 1,000 years for him to get out there because it's fucking RoboCop. And you watch the Horseman pretend to be scared of RoboCop, which doesn't come off very well. And then RoboCop fucking bends the bar. He bends the bar, and then he pulls the door off the hinges, which I'm assuming was heavily gimmicked, and I'm surprised that Cornette didn't fall out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny he bends the bar and then it's
cheese, but it's not any more cheesy than the fucking the Survivor Series fucking egg or some of the other shit that WWF was doing. Now, here's the problem with WCW. Here's the problem with old school promoters, Vern Gagne's and Bill Watts, and in this case, Jim Herd. They always look at the WWF and they look at what they feel makes the WWF successful. Because obviously, they had better wrestling, they had more serious angles, maybe better athletes, whatever they felt they were better at. So in their heads, it's like, oh, it's the comedy that makes people like WWF. It's the kid shit. It's the cartoons that make the WWE, why everyone likes WWE, everyone makes it number one, right? And that was never the case because the majority of the WWE's comedy was always in the lower mid cards anyway. Your bushwhackers and whatever the fucks, right? They were always on periphery. They weren't necessarily showcased like that. Now, there was instances that they were, but again, the WWF promotion, And when you look at it, it's not fucking comedy. It never was. Some of it's cheesy, but it was never fucking comedy. Now, when they do here RoboCop, obviously it's a great get from a business point of view. And this is where Jim Herd shined. Was RoboCop was going to be a fucking big hit. You know what I mean? It's going to be a big time fucking movie. It's a big franchise. We're going to get involved with RoboCop, right? Makes a lot of sense. We're going to promote the movie. People who watch wrestling are going to watch RoboCop. People who I guess are interested in RoboCop or might come back and watch WCW. I'm assuming they got paid. This is the point I'm trying to make. I'm assuming WCW got paid for this appearance. They didn't pay for RoboCop. I'm assuming the people at Orion Films paid WCW to promote RoboCop, which is, again, it's another means of making money. It's where the WWF was always strongest. It wasn't with their in-ring product. It was in the broadroom, right? With their merchandise and their licensing deals. And this was a smart play. Now, was it cheese? Yes. But did WCW make money on it? God, I hope so. I hope they did. And this is where Jim Herd should have focused the majority of his efforts. He should, because his problem was he liked to be Booker. He liked to be in there. And he liked to be an asshole to the boys. Instead of having your Booker handle the boys and the contracts and that kind of stuff. And he should have been focused on the business stuff because he was pretty decent at that. And let Flair, because Flair's booking here, let Flair fucking book this shit. Let Flair deal with the wrestlers. Let Flair deal with the hiring and the firing. He shouldn't even been doing that shit. Just sign the fucking checks, motherfucker. That's all he should have been doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, like you said, cheese. I mean, 100% cheese. But people knew RoboCop, so they were going to I mean, they it's not like it was just some movie that people didn't know about. They knew RoboCop, and people were super excited. And like you said, the atmosphere around it when they were outside the locker room of Sting and RoboCop, it was definitely made it. I mean, a big fight feel. I mean, but let
me ask you a question. Like, did wrestling fans buy this pay-per-view to see RoboCop?
No.
Probably not. 8-year-old Alex G, did he buy this pay-per-view to watch RoboCop? Fuck yeah, I did. Although I was probably gonna buy it anyway. But I was super excited to see fucking RoboCop. I thought it was fucking dope. I thought it was a cool idea. And then when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is not gonna be good. Oh, this sucks. Oh, and you're kind of disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But, kind of back to the corporal punishment match. I mean, and talking about the Rock and Roll Express, I mean, kind of not really a spoiler, and I think you know about it. The Rock and Roll Express appeared at the Full Gear pay-per-view for All Elite Wrestling this past weekend on Saturday in Baltimore. Did you see that fucking move that Ricky Morton did?
Yeah, he did a fucking Canadian destroyer.
That man is like 100. I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine. The fucking Rock and Roll Express, they're almost 100, it seems to be. They've been wrestling since the 80s, probably early the 70s, and they're still making towns and making money for people. I mean,
here's the thing. A lot of people say the Rock and Roll Express is back and they have a resurgence.
They never left.
They never left. They've been working this entire time. Yeah, they've been doing small independents or whatever, and they both have fucking schools that they're running that, but they never left.
Yeah, I mean,
and they can still go. Can still go.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Gibson has a school here in Georgia. Ricky Morton has a school of Morton. He also has a podcast. I mean, which is it's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, they haven't left. They just people haven't seen them on television because they've been working the towns. They've been working the independents because I mean, they're super old, but promoters
they know how to work, man.
Promoters know that if you put Ricky and Robert on the bill for a show, you're going to get people to come, even if it's not for your product, and they're coming to do a meet and greet or
Here's what people don't understand. I won't say this with all sincerity. People do not understand how over the Rock and Roll Express was. It probably, we would say 1985, 1986. I'd say 85. Let's say 85. In 1985, they're probably the second most over act in all professional wrestling. Again, just right underneath Hogan. As an act. Like, they're that fucking hot. And I don't think people really understand that.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think people understood it because, I mean, and you can agree.
Because the later on years Rock and Roll Express, when you saw them by 1988, like the wheels had fucking fallen off the car here a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're having issues with Dusty, and they're having issues. They went to the AWA for a little bit, and then they're not around, and then they're back again, and then they went, then they're gone again, and then they're back in again, and then they went to Smokey, and then they have that one shot in WWF, and they're kind of, persona non grata for a while. And I think the end of their run is what really hurts them is because, by you look at the Rock and Roll Express and it's 1993 is like, they never really updated their gimmick. They still like it's 1984. And
I mean, hey, it works. What were your thoughts on this this gimmick stipulation for this match, a corporal punishment match?
I like it. It's an interesting concept with the belts. Again, this is more of it's essentially a strap match. So this was a big in World Class. So obviously Michael Hayes had some input here, where the country whipping match, the corporal punishment match. I thought it was really fun. 18 minutes. Two good tag teams. Although I don't know about that Jimmy Garvin, but two good tag teams. And it goes to the depth. And we made fun of it. Like, hey, the fucking Samoan SWAT teams are fucking fighting Rank Rotunda and Tommy Rich. Maybe because there's a lot of tag team matches on the show. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 and a 6-man. So there's a lot of things going on here. So again, I do like the Rock and Roll Express. It's 1990 though, so it's like it's later year Rock and Roll Express. Robert will go on to get hurt later on this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and then Ricky has to team up with like Tommy Rich and eventually turn heel. And the Freebirds are the Freebirds. Again, this is a continuation of 1989 Freebirds when they thought they were going to be the version of a Road Warriors for some reason. Like they thought they're not going to sell for anybody and all that kind of shit. But eventually, later on, they get their gold record and they're off and running, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's they are still the greatest rock.
They did introduce us to Diamond Dallas Page, so
I mean there is that. I mean there is a silver lining to that. To the fabulous Freebirds. Next,
fucking DDP needs to get with Michael Hayes so he can drop some of that weight, though.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to do DDP yoga. I mean, it's definitely helps people.
You look at Jake Roberts looked good. Scott Hall looks a lot better than he was, and he's helping a lot of people. God bless DDP.
Yes. Next match was for the tag team titles. My favorite tag team, Doom, with Theodore Long, I
thought you were going to say your favorite black tag team.
No. With a newly shaved Teddy Long taking on Rick and Scott, the Steiner brothers. They were the current and reigning NWA World Tag Team Champions at that time. I mean, I like an unmasked Doom.
Everyone likes unmasked Doom because unmasked Doom is awesome. So again, you have Butch Reed and Ron Simmons. They're dressed in all black. They have badass fucking music. I love their fucking music. They were Teddy Long. Again, it's a good package here with Doom, and obviously they were going in the right direction because they gave the belts. So they beat the Steiner brothers, who this is like peak Steiner brothers here, guys. So with Doom getting the win over the Steiner brothers, I mean that's fantastic. And this match was really good. You have like 4 hosses in there with fucking Butch and fucking Ron Simmons and Rick and Scott Steiner, like slobber knocker, absolutely.
Oh, love a good slobber knocker. And this was a pre Scott Steiner, jacking up on.
He was always fucking huge.
Yeah, but not as much as now.
Yeah, we got enormous. He got fucking enormous.
Yeah, man. It's one of those things. It's like, come on.
Does anyone know if this is Shivani's first show back, by the way?
I'm not sure, but he was
definitely... He left WWF right before WrestleMania.
He was definitely young, and I think this may have been his first show back because, I mean, I don't know how long was he in the WWF? Not very long. I mean,
a year?
Yeah.
Like from late 88 to 1990, so like a year or so.
Yeah, and of course now he's in All Elite Wrestling. I mean, and he's kind of got his passion back for the professional wrestling. But
he's good at it, and I was someone that for the longest time like, where's Tony? Like he's someone that needs to come back, and quality announcers from a bygone era are rapidly like they don't exist. Like you still have Jim Ross, but he's not the Jim Ross of old. No. Tony's back, and he's getting every time he does a show, he gets better at it. So he's really getting that rust off. But like guys like Bob Caudle obviously not around anymore. Gordon Soley's not here with us anymore. Lance Russell's not here with us. Gorilla's not here. Bobby's not here. Jesse's probably due to come back. I would, if I had a wrestling promotion, I'm throwing money at Jesse Ventura to bring him back. Because I gotta say, minus Mauro Ranallo, the announcers, the current crop of announcers are not necessarily the best.
No.
Again, Joe Galli with the NWA, I think eventually, as he gets more experience, I think he'll be good. I do like Excalibur to a certain degree. I even like Corey Graves, although he's like a fucking weirdo. I don't know. He's a strange guy. But they're just not as good. I'd rather bring back Scott Hudson. Scott Hudson. Bring him back.
Yeah. He was he's getting back in the business for a little bit. I mean, he was at StarCast this past weekend.
Yeah, let's get Scott Hudson. Let's get Chris Cruz. Let's bring him back. Come on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, teach these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the 3-man booth, which they have in All Elite Wrestling. I mean, you have Tony, which he's great. Jim Ross, and I mean, he's a living legend, so I'm not going to disparage him, but he just needs to do kind of some executive producing and, segment stuff, because I'd rather just have Excalibur and Tony Schiavone as the 2-man booth for.
If I had money and lots of it, and I own a wrestling promotion, I would do this. You know how the NWA has gone back and done their studio show again? I think I would supplement that with a primetime wrestling type show.
Yeah.
Just 2 guys. So you could be Tony and say, is the argument's sake, Tony Schiavone and Jim Cornette. So they can bicker back and forth and argue and make fun of each other. That'd be hilarious, right? Everyone knows that'd be funny. That's you're trying to recreate Bobby and Gorilla. You can't. But, let's get the next best thing out there. And they can take matches from around, different places. So, again, if the NWA is not running its own shows, which it's ran very few of its own, shows. But if you get an NWA show on a CZW show, or you get it on a House of Glory show, or you get it on the House of Hardcore show, you can take those matches, tape them, and then have them for, our version of primetime wrestling. So we can show, NWA wrestlers wrestling throughout the world, because a lot of these guys are still making indie dates as well. So obviously, James Storm is making other dates on top of the NWA dates. Yeah,
I mean, that would actually be a great, right, boy, you have a lot of great booking ideas. It's like,
well, I do.
I mean, so now we're time for the main event. Oh, Ric Flair. Lex Luger taking on Ric Flair with
Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Nature Boy. I'm sorry, I
apologize.
With the very, 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 very hot woman in a cage for the title. The cage that they had in this match kind of reminds me of a modern day WWE Hell in the Cell.
Very Hell in the Cell. I think that was a purpose, because they had this cage because they were going to do this particular finish. And again, it's a cage match with a disqualification on it, guys. We've seen this before, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we've seen it before, guys. So take it easy here. Again, this is Lex Luger coming up short yet again, much like in Bash 88, or even Wild Thing, Wrestle War 90, or even the SummerSlam 1993. This is Lex Luger yet again coming up short to win the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, they made a big deal of Lex Luger being in the hospital for whatever reason. I forget the reason why he was in the hospital this time, because I feel like they've done this before. Again, it feels very rehashed, although it's a really good Luger and Flair match. Luger and Flair had really good matches together. I think a lot of it's underrated. Now, don't watch the Starrcade matches. Don't watch the Starrcade 89 matches. But the Bash 88 match, Starrcade 89, the Starrcade 88 match, like those are really solid matches. And obviously the 2 matches in 1990 are very solid. For those people who think Lex Luger is like the worst worker in the history of professional wrestling, which he is clearly not. When we look at this, again, this is thrown together, guys. This is supposed to be Sting doing his thing. And it's not Sting doing his thing. It's Luger and Flair. Again, it goes to show you, again, how depleted this roster was in terms of, main event level baby faces. Now it kind of makes you wish they would have kept Muda around and had Muda turn babyface. You have Flair versus Muda. You give Muda his main event run with Flair before Flair drops the title over to Sting in the summer. Again, it makes you really miss Ricky Steamboat, who had quit the company the summer prior. And at that point, like, who do you bring in? Like, they had opportunities to pick up guys like Randy Savage in '89 and Roddy Piper in '89. And apparently, from all accounts, Jim Herd had lowballed offered these guys. So imagine getting a Randy Savage right after he drops the belt to Hogan. Like, that would have been amazing. They retired Terry Funk without even telling him they're retiring him. Stuff like that. Like this typical WCW shenanigans here, and it cost them here. It cost them 3 years because the booking in 3 years from this one Sting injury had destroyed like 3 years of fucking booking for them. And again, they wouldn't really get it together until Bischoff takes over.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I mean, it all hinges on, like you said, that Sting injury. I mean, if he hadn't injured himself.
That's such a big deal. I think a lot of people don't even really talk about it, and how, he didn't win it in the Bash 88 in Baltimore, Bash 90 in Baltimore, but it was already too late. And the injury had hampered Sting. Sting was more athletic prior to the injury. He was getting higher on those Stinger splashes. He was getting higher on his leaps. Again, I think he was, nervous about the knee. And, poor fucking, it's Wahoo's fault. Poor fucking Sting, though. He gets a freak fucking injury. He gets injured getting pulled off a cage. A fucking freak injury.
I mean, hey, I mean, that happens, and, well, now we have the curve, but that's beside the point. But overall, I mean, what would you give this this card, from top to bottom?
Fucking 8 out of 10, bro.
Yeah, I would definitely I'd actually give it a 9 out of 10. I mean,
You're telling me the entire beginning of the show that you hated this show. It was stupid.
But now that we, I was convinced. You changed my mind. I mean, I was
just like my girlfriend on prom night.
What? You had a date on prom night? Well, that's amazing. I mean, but speaking of things that are not amazing,
right and left. That's what.
Things that are not amazing. Next week on the program, we talk not Survivor Series, but SummerSlam.
You sure it's not Survivor Series?
I am sure it's.
We're talking about Survivor Series 1995. You're talking about the main event being Kevin Nash taking on Mabel? Are we talking that fucking SummerSlam?
Yes.
Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon in the ladder match part 2, that SummerSlam?
Yes.
That's a dope fucking match, by the way.
What were your thoughts on this show before we...
it's fucking 1995 WWF. Fucking Drek. You have such fucking classic matches as Triple H taking on Bob Holly, the Smoking Gun taking the Blues Brothers, Undertaker versus Kama Mustafa. Not even Kama Mustafa at this one, just regular ass Kama. Poor Bret Hart taking on Isaac Yankem DDS. Like, what the fuck? You had that Bertha Faye versus the Wonder Blaze match on there. That was pretty good.
And we had Harvey Whippleman, who they insisted...
Where's Owen Hart on this show? Or Davey Boy Smith? Like, in this terms of work rate, like, you need to have some work rate matches on this show, and obviously the Shawn and Razor one was going to be your work rate match, but you need a couple of more in there. Like, do you really need Hakushi versus 1-2-3 Kid? And I love Sean Waltman, by the way, and I do love Hakushi, but like, hey, like Owen, Davey, can we get them on this show?
Yeah, it was interesting. They didn't have those two big superstars, but they had Barry Horowitz in a.
Well, that was a whole gimmick.
Yeah, and a whole thing. But come on, but
Barry finally gets the win on Skip.
But do you have?
I always thought that match was for the IC belt, but I was mistaken.
But do you have to have it on a pay-per-view? Can't you have it on a house show or TV? I mean, come on, it's taking up.
Raw.
I mean, it was. I mean,
Remember that one time Reno Riggins beat $1 Million Man on Superstars because of Virgil? That was cool.
Oh, Virgil, he made an appearance.
Soul Train Jones, which, again, I feel like someone's been fucking eavesdropping on me because I refer to Virgil as Soul Train Jones all the time because it's so fucking obnoxious.
Yeah.
They call him from like I call Virgil his fucking Memphis name, like, because he was Soul Train Jones in Memphis, right? So that's what I call him because that's me being fucking obnoxious smart mark because no one else is supposed to know that.
Yeah, no.
Right? And now they put it on fucking AEW.
Yeah, and of course he says that Chris Jericho's potential is unlimited, like the breadsticks at Olive Garden. Oh my God, Jesus.
Was he there conducting some NWO business?
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he had the million. I'm sure he was at StarCast, walking around, not having a fucking booth and or
Like
table.
he did last time at WrestleCon.
Oh my God. I mean, he was like, Virgil's here. What is he doing? People were like, he doesn't even have a fucking table.
I would put Virgil. Is Virgil in the WWE game? I feel like Virgil is in the WWE game.
No, but I'm sure he'll weasel his way into the retro.
Let's see the current roster of 2K20 and see if Virgil's on it.
I mean, I've heard. I mean, have you heard good or bad things about that game?
I heard it's a pile of shit. I just said it before. It's a fucking pile of shit.
Yeah,
I don't have a roster here in front of me.
Yeah, I mean,
he's been in a couple of games though. I think he was in 2K fucking 17 for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Soul Train Jones is back. Maybe he'll make a couple more appearances in All Elite Wrestling. I mean,
why the fuck not? You know what I mean? Like why? Like let's fucking do it. Let's get One Man Gang out there. Like let's fucking do it. If you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do that, then let's fucking do it. Like pardon the pun, but let's go all in on shit like that.
Yeah,
bring in Van Hammer. God damn it.
I mean, Van Hammer was at StarCast, so I mean.
Yeah, I want to see Joey Janela versus fucking Van Hammer.
Yeah,
I pitch that to him like fucking once a week on fucking Twitter, and he ignores me because he's a dick.
I mean, I would ignore you too, but that's beside the point. I mean, and to end the program, I think the most over heel right now in All Elite Wrestling is the biggest dick in the world in All Elite Wrestling. Is the great MJF. I mean, who did not see his heel turn coming against Cody?
I think that was kind of the idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's
MJF is the number one heel in professional wrestling currently, and probably for the last at least 10 years. He gets, I think, I remember JBL's run as a heel. He got a lot of heat. I mean, I didn't like him, but he got a lot of heat. He's getting more heat than fucking JBL during his run. Like, the amount of heat he's getting is generating is ridiculous. It's surpassed like Miz levels of heat. And he's a fucking kid, bro. Like, he's a fucking kid.
Yep. I mean, and the funny thing is, I mean, he's in gimmick all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, he definitely sells that gimmick. But for the great Alex G, as always, I'm David Fine. Next week, let's talk SummerSlam 1995. Watch it from whatever service. If you get it on the network, you watch it on YouTube, or if you
don't be a pirate.
I mean, if you're a pirate like Alex G, just watch it. I mean, it's a pile of shit. It's even worse than the show we reviewed this week.
1995 WWF in general is a pile of shit. I mean, we can just take the whole year and be like, pfft.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to hear us shit on the WWF back in 1995, just tune in next week, same time.
Just watch Capital Combat 90. How about that?
Yeah, just do that. But whatever you do, we'll talk to you in the past.
238 pounds in the black corner. From St. Louis,
Here comes Mr. Pro.
Andre the Giant.
Gonna get his legs in on the bruiser. Hulk Hogan.
Number one, the greatest WWE champion of all time, and in many ways, the man who made the title what it is today, Bruno Sammartino.
His opponent weighing 236 pounds in the white corner. From Van Nuys, California.